नमस्कार। टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंस की एक और कड़ी लेकर मैं आप सबके समक्ष हूँ। पिछली कड़ी में हमने एक शुरुआत की थी जिसमें हम बात कर रहे थे कि डिसेबिलिटी के एरिया में क्या क्या बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं। इसी कड़ी को आगे बढ़ाते हुए आज हम बात करेंगे लोकोमोटर इम्पेयरमेंट और सेरेब्रल पाल्सी के एरिया में क्या बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस हैं। इन बच्चों को पढ़ाते वक्त किन बातों का ध्यान रखना चाहिए एक इंस्टीट्यूशनल लेवल पे या कम्युनिटी में। इस विषय पर बात करने के लिए आज हमारे साथ दो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण विशेषज्ञ मौजूद हैं। मेरे साथ हैं डॉक्टर एम.बी. क्षेत्रीय। He is working in Indian Institute of Cerebral Palsy for last 27 years as a physiotherapist. For last 10 years, he is heading the CBR division. He is involved in different rural and urban CBR projects, and he is providing consultancy services to various organizations. They are providing support in to many organizations in this area, and particularly in northeastern region. Our other expert is Mrs. Swapna Mukherjee. She is working in IICP for last 23 years as a special educator. Presently, she is the principal of Center for Special Education of IICP. She has been involved in many innovative projects. Uh, she likes doing innovations while teaching children with disabilities, and one of her innovative project was where they were involving parents in teaching children. They were telling parents to be a teacher, how to deal with their children, and then the parents were actually doing that work. So that was her dream project. I welcome both of you in our studio. कार्यक्रम को आगे बढ़ाने से पहले मैं आपको स्टूडियो के नंबर नोट करा दूं। हमारा टोल फ्री नंबर है 1600112345। STD नंबर है 01129532844 295328845। एक और नंबर है 29536131। हमारा फैक्स नंबर है 29536134। सभी दर्शक इन नंबरों पर फ़ोन करके अपने सवाल पूछ सकते हैं। बिफोर टॉकिंग अबाउट द बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस, I'll ask Mrs. Kshetriya to tell us what is cerebral palsy.
Technically speaking, cerebral palsy is the result of a lesion or a maldevelopment of the brain, which is a non-progressive in character and existing from earliest childhood. The main problem with cerebral palsy is the neuromotor deficits resulting in abnormal pattern of movements, abnormal posture, and abnormal postural tone. This lesion, since it occurs in the earliest childhood when the brain is still immature, due to this abnormality, it will interfere the child's normal neuromotor development. As I said, the main problem with cerebral palsy is the physical, but often the children with cerebral palsy may also have other associated problems like visual problem, hearing problem, learning problem, emotional problem, and often the epilepsy may also have an associated problem. So these problems, it occurs in the different parts of the brain, and that's why these children have other associated problems, like as I said, the visual problem, and then hearing problem, and then often then epilepsy. Of course, this epilepsy and associated problem is a medical condition where the children needs the medical expert help or medical treatment. So the children, when they have the cerebral palsy, they have the various type of difficulties. Although the main problem is physical, even in the physical problem have a different difficulties. It depends upon the parts of the brain which is damaged, or which side of the brain and the degree of the brain damage. So these children, when they have this problem, they have always have a multiple problem, and with these multiple problems, they face difficulties not only one area but in other developmental area. That is why this dealing with children with cerebral palsy needs the teamwork, team of professionals, because they need help in various areas. And what I would like to say here is the people and the professionals who are working with children with cerebral palsy must know that this is not a disease, but it is a difficulties. And there is no medical treatment for cerebral palsy, but the children with this kind of difficulties can improve to a great deal with an appropriate support, and the earliest is the best. Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Chetri.
Thank you.
As you were telling that there is a need to work with these children to find out their difficulties and work accordingly. So, why is early intervention important?
Well, if we look at, I would like to show the other slides. Now, early, when I say early, the people often mistaken. You know, the early means how early is a big question. I would say the early means from the zero age. You know, from the few weeks of birth, we can start screening babies. The babies, particularly those babies who have a history of high risks, like babies who have difficulty during delivery, baby who do not cry immediately after birth, baby who had a episode of epilepsy, and the baby who have prematurity birth, and then low birth weight. These all babies categorized as the high risk babies, and all they are the one most vulnerable to have this kind of problem. And these babies must go for a screening and find out whether these babies are most likely to have a neuromotor deficit or not. If they have any indication, we must start early intervention immediately. As a result, these children who have this indication would otherwise have a severe degree of disability, which they are going to have rest of their life, can be reduced to a great deal. And those who have moderate disability, they can come down to a mild, and those mild may even overcome. So that is the advantage of early intervention. And if the baby have this early intervention, the greatest advantage is still the brain is developing, still the brain is immature, that they have a great adaptability. And if they get the right kind of stimuli, then these babies can improve, because one abnormal posture or abnormal pattern of movement leads to other. Similarly, since these babies have a involvement of all other developmental area as well, and these can integrate sensory motor integration, the earliest is the best, so the child get the opportunity to develop in all other developmental areas as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Chetri. Mrs. Mukherjee, as Dr. Chetri was telling us that early intervention is important, and from his point of view, as an educationist, like as a special educator, how the early intervention is important for teaching children.
Uh, Good afternoon. As my colleague Mr. Chetri has just said, a very important thing which we must remember where early intervention is concerned, the earlier the better. And as he just said, disability can be reduced to a great extent. I mean, if we start working with the child as quickly as possible. Like when a child is born with a problem, with the doctor says or the mother finds out that the child is not sucking, the child is not looking, the child is stiff, then the mother goes to the doctor and the doctor says there is a problem. It is a time to start immediately, and the mother, she doesn't know what to do with the child. So it is there then the professionals who are working with cerebral palsy children, they sort of show the mother how to feed the child. Feeding is a very big problem. So, and if you do not start feeding the child from day one, the child will suffer from malnutrition, which is a big problem with our children. So the child has to be fed properly, the child has to be held properly, because the child becomes stiff, the mother doesn't know how to hold the child. And we have seen mothers who have come and they have no idea as to how to sort of like position the child, and if you don't position the child properly, the problem might be accelerated. So early intervention is very important. There might be children who are not focusing, their visual problems, they might have visual problems, they might not be localizing sound, and they not, as I said, they might not be eating properly. They might small children, of course you don't start toilet training, but once they grow, say about 7 or 8 months, they are incontinent and they are not being able to sort of use the potty. So mother doesn't know what to do. So that is the time, if we start early intervention as quickly as possible, these are the things which we train the mother to work do with the child, and these are some of the handicaps that can be sort of to a certain point can be reduced.
Yeah, you mean to say that it helps if
It
we
does
do the
help,
early
yes,
intervention.
yes.
And what are the implications of children teaching children with cerebral palsy?
Right. When a child has a problem, the mother has a whole lot of, actually, a child with a cerebral palsy has a whole lot of problems. As Mr. Chetri just said, he will be having physical problems, he might be having visual problems, he might be having auditory problems, he might be having fine motor problems, he'll be having problems in feeding, he'll be having problems in toileting. So the earlier we start, the better. And in this case, I think it is very important to start with a daily routine. First, what we have to do is find out what time does the child get up, what time does the child eat, how is the child being sort of, what position the child is being put at. And so the special educator starts working with the child, teaches the mother how to hold the child, how to make the child sit. What are, if you need, the child might need some special furniture, which Mr. Chetri will talk about later on, and what furniture to the child mother should introduce, and also like early intervention programs, like a child with a problem should not be kept in a bare room which has the walls are absolutely empty. The walls should be nicely colorfully decorated. There should be lots of toys around so that the child can see her visual skills are improved. Then the mother should talk to the child while playing with the child, while dressing the child. That way the child's auditory skills are improved, and there should be a lot of musical toys, there should be a lot of music, sound around him. Then the child should be allowed to play with toys. Now this is very important in our case. Because of the physical problems, our children cannot play, and all children learn through play. So it is very important that the mother encourages the child to play, takes toys to him, encourages him to hold the toys. So for that the mother might have to take his hand to the toy, explore the toys, shake a rattle to make it sounds. This is the way a child learns. So the child sees colorful things, the child hears a lot of sounds. Then the mother has to give them, the teacher teaches the mother that you give him lots of different tastes, food of different tastes to eat. So the child also learns through taste. The child is sort of encouraged to touch a whole lot of things, soft things, hard things. The child learns through that. And what we have to remember when we are working with children with cerebral palsy is that normal children can go crawl under a chair or climb up on a table, and they have these spatial concepts. They can go and touch this, touch that, pull this, pull that. But our children they are they cannot move from one place to another. So what we have got to do as special educators is that we have to give them all these experiences. We have to take them under the chair, we have to put them on the top of the chair, we have to give them a whole lot of things. Maybe we have to put them on a tub of water, let them touch the water, play with the water. And this is how, with all round stimulation, the child learns. So it is very, very important that as soon as a mother comes to know that the child has a problem, she takes him to the nearby center, wherever, I mean, if she has any help nearby, and gives him all these help. Yes.
Yeah, we have got a call from Gujarat.
Right.
Yes, please give the call.
Good afternoon to all of you.
Yes.
We shall be very thankful. Actually, we are so many of us DSCM 30 students
Yes.
and several parents, and the topic as well is very important because there are so many cases of with cerebral palsy over here and with locomotor disabilities. But we shall be very thankful if some part of the conversation is also in Hindi.
Ji.
Ji.
Most of us here don't understand English so fluently.
Right.
So we request you to conversation for some
Okay.
part in Hindi also.
आपका कोई और सवाल है?
Okay, definitely, Dr. Hemlata.
या
My Hindi is
गुजरात
not
से
very
जी,
good.
नहीं, गुजरात से अभी हमारे पास रिक्वेस्ट था कि हम जो कन्वर्सेशन है वो हिंदी में करें, और हमारी कोशिश यही रहती है कि हम हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों भाषाओं में ही इसको करें। और मैं अभी तक जो हमने बताया है डॉक्टर छेत्री ने और मिसेस मुखर्जी ने, उसको मैं अभी हिंदी में आपको बता देती हूँ। डॉक्टर छेत्री ने बताया कि सेरिब्रल पाल्सी क्या होती है, और सेरिब्रल पाल्सी वाले बच्चों का अर्ली आइडेंटिफिकेशन बहुत ही ज़रूरी है। अर्ली आइडेंटिफिकेशन के साथ ही ये ज़रूरी है कि हम इंटरवेंशन शुरू कर दें। बच्चे को जो भी फिजियोथेरेपी चाहिए या जिस भी तरह की थेरेपीज़ की ज़रूरत है, वो थेरेपी हम सही समय पर शुरू कर दें। ये ना सोचें कि बच्चा अभी बहुत छोटा है, समय आने पर कर दिया जाएगा। तो अर्ली इंटरवेंशन बहुत ज़रूरी है बच्चे के फिज़िकल डेवलपमेंट के लिए, मेंटल डेवलपमेंट के लिए। और जैसा कि मिसेस मुखर्जी बता रही थी कि बच्चों की पढ़ाई के वक्त भी इन चीज़ों का ध्यान रखना है कि उनको हम डिफरेंट तरह के एक्सपीरियंसेस दें। जैसे कि एक आम बच्चा है, वो ज़मीन पे चल सकता है या ऊपर चढ़ सकता है या चीज़ों को छू सकता है। सेरेब्रल पाल्सी वाले बच्चों के लिए इन कामों को करने में थोड़ी कठिनाई होती है, तो हम लोगों को ज़रूरत है कि हम इन बच्चों को वो एक्सपीरियंस कराएं ताकि बच्चे का ओवरऑल डेवलपमेंट हो सके। अभी तक हम यही बात कर रहे थे। आगे मैं मिसेस मुखर्जी से अनुरोध करूंगी कि अब वो हमें ये बताएं कि आइडियली व्हाट इंटरवेंशन शुड बी डन बाय द टीम एंड द पेरेंट्स। टीम और पेरेंट्स को किस तरह का इंटरवेंशन करना चाहिए, मिसेस मुखर्जी?
See, when I'll try to speak in Hindi as well as in English. Like, first of all, when a child is born with a problem, the mother doesn't know what to do with the child. She doesn't know, उनको तो पता नहीं है इनको कैसे खिलाएंगे, इनको कैसे बिठाएंगे। अगर हम कोई फ्लॉपी बच्चा हो, जैसे उनको पकड़े तो वो तो गिर जाएगा, तो कैसे हम उसको सपोर्ट देंगे, कहाँ हम उसको सपोर्ट देंगे। और कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि कुछ तरह का सपोर्ट इज़ नॉट गुड फॉर द चाइल्ड, यू नो। सो वी हैव टू नो, हमको जानना है कि कैसे उनको सपोर्ट दे। तो दैट द फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट विल बी एबल टू टेल यू कि कैसे इसको बिठाएं, सीधा करके बिठाएं। अगर आप सिर के ऊपर पकड़ सकते हैं, अगर इधर पकड़ेंगे तो बच्चा पीछे चला जाएगा। तो ये सब हमको बहुत ज़रूरी है जानने के लिए। सेकेंडली, माँ को ये भी पता नहीं रहता है कि ये बच्चा की डज ही अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट। So the mother doesn't know whether the child understands. So it's very important to know that all children understand what their mothers are saying. They may not understand speech, but something or the other they is getting in, you know. And as you speak to the child will understand. So it is very important when working with children with cerebral palsy, बहुत ज़रूरी है कि आप आपके बच्चे के साथ बात करें। You know, जब भी जैसे कि आप उसको कपड़ा पहना रहे हैं, आप बोलिए कि आप कपड़ा पहने हो, देखो कितना अच्छा कलर का कपड़ा पहने, रेड या ग्रीन, आप कलर बताइए। आपका हाथ, यू टॉक अबाउट द बॉडी पार्ट्स, गिव मी योर हैंड, अपना सिर उठाओ। सो द चाइल्ड लर्न्स अबाउट हिज बॉडी पार्ट्स, द चाइल्ड लर्न्स अबाउट द क्लोथ्स, द चाइल्ड लर्न्स अबाउट द ऑब्जेक्ट्स अराउंड। एंड सो all this has the mother has to be taught to do. Secondly, mother को ये भी पता कभी all mothers have great difficulty in feeding the children. So what happens, इन बच्चों को chewing का problem होता है, swallowing का problem होता है, biting का problem होता है. So that in that case, you know what happens is mothers tend to give the children only liquids. So the physiotherapist or the special educator or the team, they are there to help the mother how to sort of feed the child, what sort of food has to be fed to the child. अगर आप सही तरह से ठीक से खाना खिलाएंगे तो बच्चा will gradually learn to swallow, the child will learn to chew, the child will learn to close the mouth, which has many of our children have a problem. And if you are working with your children with cerebral palsy, you will know some of them are athetoid children. They cannot close their mouth, so the children have to be taught how to close their mouth. The children have to be taught how to take food from the spoon. And so this is feeding is concerned. Then again the child has to be put, एक टॉयलेट सीट के ऊपर उसको बिठाना है, उसको सिखाना है कि आपको यहाँ टॉयलेट करना है, बाहर नहीं टॉयलेट करना है. That has to be taught to the child. A child with cerebral palsy has to be taught everything. So it is very important that a mother goes and talks about her problems to the professionals. You have to, I know when you have a child, a mother has a child like this, or even a professional, when a child comes, if you have a problem, talk to another professional, find out what sort of help the child needs, and you have to find out from the mother also. The mother has to, I would request all mothers or parents to talk about their problems, in detail. Ask the professionals that why are you doing this? आप जो exercise कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं? Why are you giving my child these programs? They should know all this, and they should talk about their feelings so that the professionals understand what the parents want, and there can be proper collaboration between each. So that's actually where implications of educating a child. I think in each area where normal children, you don't have to teach them how to feed, you don't have to teach them how to go to the toilet, but in our children we have to teach them how to feed properly, how to eat properly, we have to teach them toileting, we have to teach them dressing, we have to teach them how to sit properly, we have to teach them how to sort of Mr. Chetri will talk about the physical part of it, and so all this has to be done. Mr. Chetri, will you sort of speak about the physical part?
Yes, I agree with Ms. Mukherjee. जैसे उन्होंने बताया कि ये सारे बच्चे के डेवलप करने के लिए
आप इंग्लिश में बोलिए, आई विल ट्रांसलेट.
Okay, now we need to look at all the areas of development, and then it has to be integrated like any individual. Normally, if you look at the children, they when they grow, it develops in all areas together. It's not that one area they develop, then next they regular. It's just it has to integrate the sensory and motor. Like if the child touch something and then feel it, then the child will turn the head towards that. But if the child has a physical problem, then he may not be able to turn head towards the anything of the stimuli. So we need to teach the child, and if the child learn to do abnormally, then that lead to the other sequence of physical development, abnormal pattern. That has to be corrected. And as we start as early, I would like to stress upon again and again the early intervention has a great advantage. Because of this, before setting any abnormal pattern, if the child learn to control, and that the one normal movement helps the child to develop the other sequence of movements normally or near normally, and that's how the child learn the step by step. And of course it is that varies from the child to child. Some children, they shows fast development in one area, the other child may not, because as I said earlier, the brain damage occurs at the different parts of the brain, and the degree of the damage may be different. So the parents should not be disheartened by seeing if the one child progress is better than the other. If the child may not be developing in one area, child may have a great potential to develop in other area. So we need to keep on working no matter, and And let me tell you, children with cerebral palsy, no matter how severe problem they have, but in our, it is 30 years, this professional field, we have never seen any single child who has not improved. So that is what is very important, and we have to believe in it, and as the belief, and the child, what he needs, what kind of support needs at what age, that is very important to know by all the people working, and including parents, and the parents here are the partners. Parents and professionals have to work in a partnership. That is what is again very important. Sometimes the parents may have a different various questions, may not be able to come up to the professionals and speak it out. That should not be there, because this is a teamwork, and we need to work in a partnership, and then lot of things a professional has to learn from the parents, and then of course the parents may have to learn something from the professional. And the child, as he grows, the needs will vary. So the child needs a different help at the different phases, different age. So that has to be built on. And if the child gets a better support from the early age, the later part would be much easier and easy to accept, easy to understand, and easy to work on. And that is what is very important for all the parents and the people around, and the child learn from the different experiences. But at the same time, one must know how to help the child. If the child is not ready to stand, if they are not ready to walk, that child should not be making him walk. But generally what happens is parents or people who have no experience working with children with cerebral palsy, if the child is not sitting, they try to make this stand and or walk, and that may not be correct. The child has to learn many other skills or many other physical abilities has to gain, then only is ready for child to make walk. And many children may not be able to walk, but at the same time they can learn many other skills where these children can become independent functionally in other areas, like say for instance feeding, toileting, as Ms. Mukherjee just said, the area where the child needs day-to-day activities in the play, in feeding, toileting, dressing, undressing, grooming, cleaning, all these areas child may become independent. So that is why that the teamwork is important, and all the time we need to work with in consultation with every member, so that the child can get the best service and achieve the best result.
Thank you,
And
Dr. Chetri.
I want to add one thing,
Yeah.
that we must remember, हम सबको this is something which we remember, that all children can learn, isn't
Yeah.
that so?
Yeah.
And so however many problems your child seems to have, it is absolutely, it's a fact that all children can learn, given if you give them the proper intervention, you give them the opportunity, they will learn. And it's very important that all parents and professionals enjoy yourself with the child. You can have fun, you can have sort of, it is just like before, because of the problems, it's not that like things are very serious. You can have fun, you can enjoy yourself, take your children out, give them lots of experiences, and children do learn.
जैसा कि डॉक्टर छेत्री और मिसेस मुखर्जी बता रहे थे कि जो बच्चों को सेरिब्रल पाल्सी होती है, तो बच्चों की अपनी अपनी एबिलिटी होती है, और उनकी एबिलिटी और उनकी क्षमता के हिसाब से हमें उनको सिखाने की ज़रूरत होती है, और हर बच्चे का सीखने का जो प्रोसेस है वो अलग होता है। तो माँ बाप ये ना समझे कि दूसरा बच्चा इतना सीख गया, मेरा बच्चा इतना क्यों नहीं सीखा, क्योंकि हर बच्चा एक अलग इंडिविजुअल है। तो एक प्रोफेशनल होने के नाते, टीचर्स होने के नाते या पेरेंट्स होने के नाते हमें ज़रूरत है कि हम लगातार कोशिश करते रहें, उनको अलग अलग तरह के एक्सपीरियंसेस देते रहें ताकि वो सीख सकें। और जैसा कि मिसेस मुखर्जी बता रही थी कि हमें ये भी ज़रूरत है कि उन बच्चों को हम अपने डे टू डे एक्टिविटीज़ में शामिल करें और हैव फन विद देम, उनके साथ मज़ा करें, घुमाएं फिराएं, मतलब हर जैसा कि हम और बच्चों के साथ करते हैं इन बच्चों को भी उसी तरह से हम समाज के हर मुख्य धारा में हर काम में जोड़ कर रखें। अब मैं जो हम बात कर रहे थे कि इन बच्चों को हम सब के साथ जोड़ कर रखें या इन बच्चों को सबके साथ मिलाएं, इनको पढ़ाएं लिखाएं, तो मेरे ख्याल से मिसेस मुखर्जी इसमें हम किस तरह से बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं उसमें टीएलएम का भी रोल बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है कि हम किस तरह की टीचिंग लर्निंग मटेरियल को यूज़ करते हैं। तो उसके लिए आप कुछ बताना चाहेंगे?
जैसे कि according to the ability of your child, initially as I was speaking just now, it was mainly about children who are just babies, for early intervention program. But as the child grows, the child can be either put into a special school, and if you don't have a special school, you can put the child in a normal school in your locality, and the child may need some special equipment, like for a child who is going at a normal pace, the child will get the concept. Yes. Yeah.
We got a call from Delhi.
Yeah.
Yes. Hello. Hello.
हाँ बताइए।
Please reduce the volume of your TV. हेलो, अपने टीवी का वॉल्यूम कम कीजिए। हेलो।
Hello.
या प्लीज आस्क योर क्वेश्चन।
There seems to be some disturbance. Can you hear me?
या जी, अपना
Yeah. The question that I wanted to ask Mrs. Mukherjee
Yes.
was what, in her experience, are the problems faced by children with cerebral palsy in mainstream education,
Right. Okay.
and what would she suggest teachers in regular schools should be aware of
Okay.
when they should include children with cerebral palsy in a regular classroom.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we will continue.
Yes.
First, I'll continue with our discussion.
Okay.
Dr. Kshetriya, how can we ensure quality education for children with cerebral palsy in urban and rural areas where least facilities are available?
Yeah. Well, this is a very big challenge for all of us, for the whole country as such. But nevertheless, if we look at what education means, what education give us, if we look at education give us more opportunity to express ourselves, communicate, talk. Education gives confidence, education gives opportunities, and education gives us social skills, and education gives more freedom. If we look at this, if this is the objective of the education, in value education, then this can start from very beginning, from the home itself. I think one of the important area when we think in terms of best practices for educating in a different areas like urban slums and rural areas, people perception again about education is getting the child into the school. Of course it is important. Every single child must go to the school, but we must not forget a normal child, when they go to the school, they learn a lot of things before going to school at home and in the environment, in the locality. That is something we tends to forget with the children with cerebral palsy or children with disabilities. That is why many a times when the children they been taken to the schools, then there is a lot of challenges comes, because it's a very traumatic for a child, very difficult to adjust in that environment where he's not been exposed, where there's no experience. So if we look at the normal child before going to the school,
You carry on.
then this child have first have a the good bondage among their siblings. Then he has a friends in the locality, he always goes to play with them, come back home, and then they known place, go, they have been exposed in the environment, and when these children start going, they have somebody known to him, the environment which is exposed to, and the child is not face very difficulties in the school. Similarly, a child who have a disability, particularly cerebral palsy, when they have a mobility problem and then the movement problem, sometimes they are not even integrated among the siblings. Sometimes they have no friends in the locality. They have not gone out of the house. So before taking the child, this child must have this experience like any other normal child. And then, in the school environment, if they have friends which already known, and if they go together, then the school environment is a very friendly, where that this child with disability can go, have a confidence, and somebody known to him and who can talk to. Similarly, putting the children into the school, we have to do, any professionals, parents have to do this homework, and the people in general in the community have to do this homework of exposing child in the environment, creating better environment, and also the children at school, the peer group who do not have a disability must be aware of children who have disability, so that when a child with disability comes, they do not interact, or they do not pass on negative remarks, or do not interact differently. And so that is the first step. I think it's a very important. And then the teachers, of course, has to have a training background. Not necessarily has to be special educators. It's not in our country context, may not be possible at the moment to have a special educator in every single primary school. But certainly they can go for a orientation training, how to deal with the children with cerebral palsy when they have physical problem, language and communication problem, and learning problem. So they can have this specific orientation training, and then when the child comes, they will not get afraid of. They in fact, they can have a confidence to adjust and take child into the school. And then once the school is there, of course, that the school ideally should have the access, physical access, in terms of going to the toilet, in terms of sitting in the classroom. The child may not have enough balance in sitting, so child might need something, some support, some special furniture. Child may not be able to talk like other children, and then in that case child might need something that to augment his communication. And then the child may not have a mobility. The child might need some mobility aids. These are the basic the important areas where we can start. And of course we can provide training to anybody in the school, and the children. We can have an awareness program so that children will not interact differently with the child with the disability.
Thank you, Dr. Kshetriya. We have got a call from Gujarat. Yes, please give the call from Gujarat. हेलो, गुजरात से कॉल दीजिए।
काफी इंतजार के बाद हमारा लाइन मिला, लेकिन हम 3 सवाल एक साथ में पूछेंगे।
जी जी।
पहला सवाल ये है कि सेरेब्रल पाल्सी वाले जो बच्चे होते हैं, जिनको बिल्कुल मूवमेंट ही नहीं होती, वो टोटली ऑन बेड होते हैं, उनके साथ कम्युनिकेशन करना भी काफी डिफिकल्ट होता है, कोई रिस्पांस नहीं मिलता, तो उनके लिए कैसे काम किया जाए। दूसरी बात यह है कि कुछ सेरेब्रल पाल्सी वाले बच्चों में देखा गया कि उनको बॉडी में इनवॉलंटरी मूवमेंट्स होती है, पूरा शिवरिंग बॉडी में देखा गया, हाथ में पैर में शिवरिंग होता है, तो उनको एक्टिविटीज ऑफ डेली लिविंग और थोड़ा एजुकेशन कैसे दिया जाए। तीसरी बात है कि कुछ बच्चों में देखा गया काफी ड्रूलिंग होता है, कंटिन्यूअसली स्लाइवा बाहर निकलता रहता है, तो इसको रोकने के लिए क्या उपाय किया जाए। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद। आपका सवाल अभी हम थोड़ी देर के बाद लेते हैं, हम अपना डिस्कशन जारी रखेंगे। Mrs. Mukherjee, as we were discussing that apart from teachers, the different professionals, teachers play a very important role for better development of children. So can you tell our viewers about that?
when working with a child with cerebral palsy, we have to remember that the most important, it's teamwork, and the most important part of our team, the most important member rather, is the parent. And apart from that, we have the team of professionals, like we have the special educator, like myself, physiotherapist, like Mr. Chetri, yes, and we have the speech therapist, we may have an occupational therapist, we need a social worker, we need a doctor who actually diagnoses the problem. Then if the child has an epilepsy, you might have to go to a neurologist. But all this is not available all the time in all areas. So whoever is available can start with the management of the child with the problem. Now, the first thing with what should be done is the assessment of a child. Now, yes, the assessment of a child. The assessment is done by these professionals, the physiotherapist, the special educator, the social worker looks at the family problems, and an individual educational program is sort of made. Now, in answer to the questions which we have had, I am just putting them all those problems also separately.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the individual educational program that is made, that will deal with the child's all-round development. So it will be the cognitive development, it will be the visual skills, development of the visual skills, it will be development of auditory skills, it will be development of grasp, fine motor grasp, and maybe then later on as the child grows up, the educational activities. It can start by, say, for example, recognition of common objects, recognition of body parts, then we go on further to color recognition, to numbers. Everything has to be, every teaching goal has to be spelled out. It has to be properly, each step has to be written down, and it is very important with our children that each step should be taken separately. Suppose, for example, you are teaching color red. First, you teach the child to identify, to sort out the different colors, red colors from yellow colors. That's the first step. So you go on, then the child will be doing sorting, then the child does matching, and then the child learns red. Whereas in a normal child, the child will straight off learn red. I mean, you do it with a normal child 2-3 times, the child gets the color concept. But with our children, every color has to be taken separately. Each step has to be taken separately. So it is very important that we do this individual educational program. And for this, as you are saying, we do need special aids, teaching aids, which the teachers can make. A lot of it is available in the market. You can use just ordinary toys which we get in the market. You can use skittles, you can use this nesting toys to teach color recognition, you can use blocks, you can make flashcards. So these can be used. You can use big pictures to start with. But it is the main essential thing is to start with the individual educational program.
Thank you, Mrs. Mukherjee. We have got a call from Coimbatore. Yeah. Please give the call from Coimbatore. Hello. Please transfer the call. I think it got disconnected, so we'll continue with our discussion. So we got a call from Delhi. So
Mainstream?
Yeah. So
Hello?
I'll talk about my.
yes, I think
yes?
there's a
Hello?
Yes. Please ask your question.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah. So you continue.
Yes. Okay. Well, this lady from Delhi, you were asking me about my experience of mainstream education. Well, in our organization, we have children who, though they have the physical problem, they are functioning at a normal level. So we don't like to keep these children. We want our children to go out. We want our children to be sort of mingle with everybody. We want others to understand our children and our children to understand them.
DJ call.
Yeah.
So we'll take.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah. Please ask your question.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello, what are the concessions available for the CP children, ma'am, to attend the exams, school or the college exams? And I have another question. Are CP children given chance to appear for the civil service examinations?
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, yes. Civil service
Yeah.
examination. Okay.
Hello?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I have another question. Are CP children aware of such civil service examinations?
Okay. Okay, we'll be taking your question after a while. Yeah, Mrs. Mukherjee,
Okay.
please continue.
Now, so as I was saying that we do send our children. When a child is going to a normal school, it is very important that number one, the school has to be prepared for the child. So we are professionals. It's our duty to go and talk to the principals, to tell them that our child has this problem. These are the strengths of our child, and these are the needs. We have got to talk to the teachers. Tell them about prepare them for our child before we send a child to a school. And we also have to prepare the children, so there has to be some group. We have to work with the school, to so that this initial preparation can be done. And in the meantime, we also prepare our own children and our family. For example, we talk to the family, we tell them what problems they can have when they go to mainstream school. We talk to the child. We can say that you will be treated like a normal child, so you might be teased for what your problem, so you have to accept that. And so it has to be on both levels. And then once the child goes to school, we have to always remember that in a normal school there might be, say, 50 children. So the teacher has to manage 50 children, and along with that the teacher has to manage a child with a problem or a disability or cerebral palsy, as we are talking about. So in that case, the teacher would need support, because it's impossible for her to work with so many children as well as give individual attention to this child. So in that case, what we do is we go and work with the teacher, give her support wherever possible. What we do is the child may need a few individual sessions outside the classroom. If so, then we give that. And the child, well, say while giving examinations, the child might need some more time. So we request the principal to give the child more time, or maybe if the child has a little bit of problem, arrange for a writer. So there has to be constant sort of networking, interaction with the school, and it is an ongoing process, and we have to go find out how the school is faring. We have to invite the teachers and the staff to come to our organization. So that is the way we do.
एंड हमें गुजरात से हमारे पास
हाँ जी,
क्वेश्चन आया था
हाँ।
कि सेरेब्रल पाल्सी वाले बच्चों के साथ जब कम्युनिकेशन नहीं हो पाता है तो कैसे काम करें.
Okay. Now, what you were saying was your child is, suppose the child is very severe and he is lying on the bed and he doesn't talk. So how are we going to communicate with the child? See, a very small child, how does the child learn to communicate? He looks at an object, say for example a colorful red object or something there. He looks at an object, and what does the mother do? The mother says, oh, you're looking at that object, that means you want the red ball. So the mother will go get the red ball, give it to the child, or take the child to that object. So what happens is the mother is assuming that the child is wanting that object. So with our children, severe children, what we've got to do is, whenever a child looks at something, we say, oh, you want that? Either we take the child there or we get the object there. Let her feel the object. Let her sort of, if it is something, it's a colorful object, let the child see it. The child may not initially actually sort of see at all, or actually sort of feel at all or understand what you are showing. But as you go on doing this, whenever the child looks at something, you either answer, or whenever a child makes an sound, you say, oh, you are calling me. Is that what you want? Okay, go and give the child a hug, or give the child something to eat, or pick up the child, or sit with the child. So we are giving meaning to whatever the child is doing. That is the way you start communication.
आपका कहना है कि जब अगर बच्चा कुछ इस तरह की जेस्चर कर रहा है तो पेरेंट को या टीचर को ये समझना चाहिए कि वो क्या कह रहा है, उसको समझने की कोशिश करें और उसको जो भी चीज़ चाहिए वो हम उसको दें. और उसको वो अनुभव कराएं.
Right. Also, Dr. Hemlata, initially, as this gentleman was saying, if it's a very severe child, he might be doing it's a reflex. He might not be doing it consciously, okay? But when we are putting a meaning to that, whatever his behavior, in the long run, the child will start doing it consciously.
जो हमारे पास दूसरा क्वेश्चन
हाँ
था
जी,
उसमें था कि कई बार बच्चों में इनवॉलेंट्री मूवमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा होते हैं, तो इन बच्चों को एडीएल हम कैसे सिखाएं?
Now, suppose the child, like a child with athetosis, may have a lot of involuntary movements. So, in that case, you have to, it is very important that you seat the child properly, because if the child keeps falling, or if child keeps sort of throwing things about, then in that case you cannot work. So, most important thing is seating. So, that seating has to be, the child has to be sat properly, his back should be straight. Mr. Chetri, would you talk about the seating part?
Okay. Yeah. The most important is, again, child with cerebral palsy have a different types of physical difficulties. Like some children, as you mentioned, have a lot of involuntary movements which interferes the child's normal movements. Some children have a very stiff limbs, and then when they try to move their limbs, then they get stiffer, then they find difficult to manage. So you will find this kind of various difficulties, physical difficulties. But nevertheless, one has to, first thing is to assess what the physical abilities the child has, and then in what age. That is also important. I think you have not mentioned the age of your child, and if the child is still young, the child can be start physical management program. That with a regular physical management program, child might learn to control his movement to a great deal. Child might learn to be stable in a different position, and if not, then child might need some support of maybe it's a special furniture or equipment. Then with the help of this special furniture and equipment, the child can participate or take part in the activities much better. So we need to look at individually, as I said, and I agree with Mrs. Mukherjee saying that the program, whether it's educational or physical or communication or the other areas, has to be individualized. And that is where the professionals' roles comes, and then the parents have to work together. So if the child gets this kind of support, I am sure the child will be much better, if not independent, in the areas of feeding, what you are mentioning, and in the area of even the mobility. And some children do need a very specialized equipment. That depends, but with the specialized equipment, that they can become much more independent in many areas.
थैंक यू डॉक्टर शेट्टी. मिसेस मुखर्जी, एक हमारे पास और सवाल था जिसमें था कि जो बच्चों में ड्रूलिंग होती है उसको कैसे कम किया जा सकता है?
Actually, drooling is because the child is not being able to control the mouth, the muscles in the mouth. Okay, so the child forgets, so he keeps his mouth open. All of us have saliva, but what we do is we can swallow the saliva. But a child with cerebral palsy, sometimes he might not be able to control the muscles in the mouth, and secondly, he may forget to close his mouth, or he may forget to swallow the saliva. So in that case, what you have got to do, if your child understands, then you have to keep reminding him up thugitlo, or swallow the saliva. The other thing you can do is give him a little bit of physical prompt here and tell him that close your mouth, to remind him that you have to close your mouth. And third thing is very important, that these muscles need to be you need to strengthen these muscles. For that, you have to have food which the child can chew. The child has to chew food, the child has to take solid food, so that the child learns to chew and then swallow. So that automatically comes. So this is a main way of it takes time, it will take time, but I can assure you it can be done.
And, actually somebody was sharing with me that they are doing yoga for with these children, and it is helping for
the drooling.
Drooling is.
What do you think, Mr. Chetri?
Well, the yoga, if they are doing some the activities which involves the movement of jaws, tongues and
maybe
lips, it might be helped. But again, I would like to add with Ms. Mukherjee, drooling is not a problem. as such. We all have saliva, but we keeps on, as he said, keeps on swallowing consciously, unconsciously, so it does not come out of the mouth. But children with cerebral palsy, they have physical difficulties and they also forget to close their mouth. That's why the saliva comes out. So what we need to teach the child is to swallow, and then also to initially you can start to wipe, teaching the child to wipe the whenever saliva comes and remind, so that the child is consciously learn to use his lips, close his mouth and swallow the saliva. And gradually when the child learns to do that, the child's feeding pattern improves, feeding habit improves, the content of food, he can have a different choice of food, and then he will learn to control on his own. But again, it might take, some children might take longer time, some children might
I
take
just
a
want to
short time.
I just want to add a little
Yeah.
bit here.
Yeah.
Sometimes a little bit of reward helps.
Yeah.
Like for example, you say that you're going to get something, you give a chocolate or something if you stop drooling, you know. For 5 minutes, if you don't drool, you do your work, then I'll give you something.
Yeah.
So that helps, and that you can sort of work on
Motivate,
that
yeah.
and increase the time.
Yeah. Actually, we are short of
Yes,
time, so if
A little bit about the concessions.
you can tell about
yeah.
the concession, and the rest of the questions we can
Yeah.
answer. You can answer them in
Yeah,
writing.
yeah. The concessions, yes, there it is available for class. Say for example, your child is appearing for class 10, then you have to have a writer who is class 8 or 9, and the university does allow you to do that. I think you from whichever state you are. In West Bengal, definitely we have this, but I'm sure in your state also they will allow the writers, and it is a law now, so it's that's no problem. And the child sometimes is given a little bit of extra time, so that is also there. You have to find out from your school whether or your local district.
Yeah, thank
And-
you, Mrs.
yeah.
Mukherjee. Actually, we are really short of time. So I'll just ask a last question from Dr. Chetri. Ideally, what should be the role of an institution dealing with children with cerebral palsy? Just give me an answer in 2 minutes, only in half minutes.
Okay. Well, actually, and frankly speaking, the role of the institution has to be a multiple. And the people who have children with cerebral palsy have to, they should be able to get the services of various kind, starting from young baby to the any age. There should not be any age bar. There should not be any economical bar for getting the services from the institution, and also institution should be able to provide the services to the far places by providing training at the different levels to the different people and different areas, and also creating awareness among the people in the community. In fact, and also to network with the existing government services.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Chetri. आज हम समय की कमी के कारण कुछ सवालों को नहीं ले पाएंगे, उन सवालों का जवाब हम लिखकर आपको भेज देंगे। यदि इस विषय में आपको और जानकारी चाहिए तो आप डॉक्टर क्षेत्रीय से इंडियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सेरेब्रल पाल्सी बी 35/1 तारातल्ला रोड, कलकत्ता में संपर्क कर सकते हैं। ईमेल है ssei@bsnl.com। फ़ोन नंबर है 24010240। दूसरा नंबर है 24013488। यदि और जानकारी कुछ चाहिए तो आप भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद में लिखकर भी भेज सकते हैं। हमारी अगली टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंस का विषय भी इसी पर केंद्रित होगा, जिसमें हम बात करेंगे बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस फॉर डीलिंग विद चिल्ड्रन विद लोकोमोटर इम्पेयरमेंट एंड सेरेब्रल पाल्सी। इस विषय पर बात करने के लिए हमारे साथ अगली बार इंडियन स्पाइनल इंजरी सेंटर दिल्ली से विशेषज्ञ मौजूद रहेंगे। समय वही 2:30 बजे से 3:30 बजे तक का रहेगा। अंत में मैं आज के अपने विशेषज्ञों, अपने व्यूअर्स और EMPC के सहयोगियों को धन्यवाद देती हूँ। और चलते चलते मैं यही कहना चाहूँगी कि जब हम बात करते हैं सेरेब्रल पाल्सी वाले बच्चों की, तो हमें इन बातों का ध्यान रखना, हमें एज पेरेंट, एज प्रोफेशनल्स इन बातों का ध्यान रखना चाहिए कि हम समाज के मुख्य धारा में शामिल करने के लिए इनको अन्य बच्चों की तरह ही ट्रीट करें। जैसे हम और बच्चों को बाज़ार ले जाते हैं, उनकी ज़रूरतों का ध्यान रखते हैं, उसी तरह हम इन बच्चों की ज़रूरतों का भी ध्यान रखें, इनकी मुश्किलों को, इनकी जो समस्याएं हैं उनको ध्यान में रखते हुए। धन्यवाद।